Welcome everybody to the investor webinar featuring Little Green Pharma ASX code LGP, who will be providing their half-yearly report and an update on the events subsequent to the completion of that half-yearly report. To provide the overview and the presentation today is Fleta Solomon, Managing Director of Little Green Pharma. Fleta, over to you.
Thank you, David, and hello everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Yes, my name is Fleta. I am the Managing Director of Little Green Pharma, and today I'm really happy to present to you our half-yearly results for 31 December 2020 and also provide an update of our strategy progress. Our existing shareholders will know by now that LGP is known for hitting our strategic milestones, and this update is no different. So thank you for joining us, and if we go straight to slide 3 and we'll have a look at our recent financial performance, which is really why everyone's here today. So LGP has continued to achieve really strong growth during the 31 December 2020 half year, with significant growth in unit sales and revenue. I am absolutely delighted to tell you, and I'm sure you've already seen, that LGP achieved its maiden half-yearly profit with a profit after tax of nearly $500,000. So super happy with this, given the profit rarity in the medicinal cannabis industry globally. So attributing to this profit was our unit sales in Australia of 21,000 bottles. And this is up 340% compared to the previous corresponding half year. And this resulted in revenue of 3.7 million. So this is up 420% compared to the previous half year. And this 3.7 million includes the 600,000 or over $600,000 from sales to overseas customers. So nearly 5,000 new patients were prescribed LGP medicines, and this brings the total lifetime patients to nearly 10,000. So needless to say, it's very nice having our cash at bank actually increase to 4.4 million by the end of December. So really proud of the LGP team, not only for our continued strict fiscal discipline, but also on the targeted mindset that the team has on our strategic direction and vision, including patient acquisition and overseas sales. Okay, we found ourselves in a really unique position at the end of the year, whereby thanks to our cost control consciousness, we could actually continue to grow organically if we needed to, and we didn't have to go back to the market. However, this is such a fast growing industry, and LGP has experienced a real step change. And this is thanks to recent achievements such as being awarded a primary supplier for the French medicinal cannabis trial. So we've come from this really small operation with minimal cost outlay. And really this is a high cost industry, and we've managed to run a really tight ship. And although we could weather the storm if we needed to, we're now at the cusp of what I think is greatness and really taking the company to the next level. So this is the reason why we recently did a capital placement of $22 million and currently offering a share purchase plan of 5 million to existing shareholders. But nothing has changed strategically. We have fiscal discipline, as I've mentioned, and this is ingrained in our company culture. So it's who we are, and we'll continue to work aggressively and efficiently as we always have done. And so the funds raised will simply be used to continue our strategy of the main 3 points. So patient acquisition in Australia, commercial sales volumes into international markets, and product development and innovation to reach our longer term goal. Great, so on the corporate overview slide, what I want to draw your attention to is that Angus and I, who are both executive directors, own about 14% of the company between us. And I want to say this because shareholders can be comfortable that we think like shareholders, we're not just management. And this is important. And now that we've become aware of being entrusted with a high level of investor funds to drive our strategic growth, we take this responsibility really seriously. So the company has no debt. We have a cash reserves of 24 million. The balance sheet is strong and the market cap is around the $120 million mark. And as you'll have observed, the business continues to grow. So perhaps given the profitability, we could be viewed as undervalued, but certainly a long way to go, and it's very exciting. So for any new shareholders who are joining us today, or just to recap for those who have been existing investors, LGP is a vertically integrated medicinal cannabis company. So this means we have our own cultivation and manufacturing facility. So we're focused only on pharmaceutical grade cannabis, and this is used for treating medical conditions. And this is really fundamental because we are all about transforming people's lives. So LGP's vision is to do extraordinary things for patients. Now, this is our belief, it's our purpose, and it continues to be our strategy and is very entrenched within our business. So for those that don't know, a little bit of history, LGP started when a young girl named Claire was suffering a huge amount of debilitating seizures every single day. No existing medicines were helping, but when she consumed and absorbed medicinal cannabis oil, her seizures greatly subsided and she was living a much more comfortable life. And it was at this point we realized that if the active ingredients in cannabis oil could be more efficiently or effectively absorbed into the body, we could potentially help solve real patient problems around the globe. And that was when Little Green Pharma was born. So not only would we supply West Australian grown cannabis medicines to patients across the globe, but we could help solve real patient problems through unique drug delivery systems and technologies. And this is what our long-term game plan is. So we absolutely want to deliver a return for our investors, but we also really want to deliver actual patient outcomes. So this is how we do it, is through our vertical supply chain. Thank you. So LGP is vertically integrated, as I've mentioned, and this means that we operate across the entire value chain. So this is incredibly important because it means that we can identify opportunities and create value within each activity that sits along this chain. I'll go into some more detail throughout the presentation, but just to give you a bit of oversight as to what this means is, we have an indoor cultivation and production facility in the southwest region of WA, and this was recently re-rated. We can now produce 3 ton of flower, or 300,000 50 ml bottles of medicinal cannabis oil. We can also double this production if we need to, and we have established channels of additional raw biomass, which is really important so we're not limited in our sales. But we're not just growers, we also manufacture as well. So we can manufacture internally and externally through a third-party provider. We both have GMP licensed facilities, and this means it's good manufacturing practice. This is a certification that's given through the Therapeutic Goods Administration as really essential for delivering an end medicine, and particularly for exporting overseas, which is where our target market primary really does lie. So we've also got, I guess at the heart of our business is product innovation and the team that are working on the R&D side of things to develop this drug delivery technology that we have. I'll talk a little bit more down the track on our Arise technology and also the 2 new medicines that we've just delivered into the market, including a flower and also a 1-to-100 CBD product. So we're always expanding our product line. I'll also touch on patient access, which is critical for industry growth and also for all stakeholders. So the University of Sydney recently launched the Quest initiative. This is super exciting. There's a way of getting patient access as well as affordability. And of course, we recently entered into a strategic partnership with the Health Insurance Fund of Australia. And this is also really exciting, game-changing for the industry. And I will go into a little bit more detail in just a few slides. But finally, I can't stress enough how important the distribution channels are, particularly in the international space. Because, and although we've got great domestic sales in Australia, our short-term goal is definitely in those international space or in the international markets. So we'll continue to navigate regulatory approvals and new jurisdictions and the legislations, so we can get more, we can enter into more of these markets. And, you know, just at the moment, it wasn't long ago that Australia was our primary market, but now we have patients in the UK, Germany, Lesotho, and New Zealand who are all currently benefiting from our LGP medicines. So this is exciting. And I guess everything that you see here, these sort of previous 4 steps, is everything that I've been talking about is ultimately where the value lies and enable us to get here to this last distribution and sales channel. So this is where we move on to our strategy, and our strategy, it's really clear, you know, where there are 3 things that we're focused on. Firstly, number 1 is proven sales in Australia. So increasing sales domestically demonstrates market validity, and it generates immediate cash flow and underpins the development of international pathways, allowing us to pursue the bigger target. And this bigger target, which is number 2 strategy, is the generation of commercial sales volumes in international markets. So this is where we aim to make the bigger profits. You know, this is why distribution and partnerships and strategic shipments are all really important. So it's proving out those pathways. So we've shipped more than 1,000 bottles to the UK, more than 2,000 bottles to Germany. And so although these volumes themselves are not materially commercial, they're strategically really important. And these are the sorts of announcements that shareholders need to look for, because it means we're entering and we're finding our feet and getting into these new markets for those much bigger commercial volumes. So the 3rd strategy and our end game and longer term play is the production innovation along that unique drug delivery side of things. So again, we'll speak about that in just a moment, but we've successfully applied medicinal cannabis to our ARISE technology, which is we're working with Curtin University. So this will help to solve those real patient problems. Good. Okay, so I mentioned just previously about the importance of Australian sales, and I want to give you a sense of that because our sales growth has been consistently strong with a month-on-month increase, and we've really penetrated the market. So at the end of December 2019, we estimated we had about 11.5% of the Australian market. But at the end of December 2020, we believe this is more like 25%. So we now have nearly 10,000 patients, of which nearly 5,000 are new. So this goes to show that how we get our patient acquisition, and we've got a slightly different model, but it's really working. So this has resulted in unit sales of over 37,000 bottles, which have been sold in Australia. As mentioned, this half yearly gone, we generated a 3.8 million revenue with the gross margin currently at about 55.7%, which of course we're expecting to improve with time. And of course, our efforts in Australia and overseas has resulted in the company's first half yearly profit of 480,000, with a little bit of help from a government R&D rebate included in that. So as we look to our strategy, we need to make sure that we've got the capability to do so. So before we can deliver into our strategic growth, we need to have the capability to supply cultivation and raw biomass. So if we flip to the next slide, perfect. So LGP, I mentioned that we have an indoor facility. Now, this has just recently been re-rated from producing 1.75 tonne of flour to now producing about 3 tonne of flour per annum. So This is about 300,000 bottles of 50 ml cannabis oil extracts. So we are able to double this production if we need to. We have adjoining land, so we can double that if required. But we also have, and this is really important, is existing supply lines with multiple suppliers of high quality third-party raw material. So this is to supplement our supplies, so we never run into the position where, oh gosh, we've gone through our 300,000 bottles of medicine. So we don't foresee those issues happening because we do have access to additional material. Okay, when we look at the manufacturing capability, we have an in-house facility, which I mentioned, which is TGA GMP licensed. Now, the internal facility is capable of producing flour, oils, tinctures, and active pharmaceutical ingredients or APIs. And we can do additional high volume manufacturing and R&D capability with our third-party manufacturer who we have an exclusive agreement with. So we'll continue to work with both our internal facility and our third-party manufacturer because this allows LGP to deliver products to other countries in Europe and also the Americas, because it's thanks to a mutual recognition agreement between the EU and Australia, which recognises that our manufacturing practices are very compliant, or they are compliant with the EU. And the EU GMP is regarded as the highest quality in the world. So having this EU GMP recognition is really important for our strategy, which is overseas sales with big commercial volumes in these markets. Okay, so if we look at our strategic growth, and the first one I mentioned to you was the sales in Australia, so patient acquisition, and this continues to be important for market validity as we continue to grow in this space. So this is where I want to talk about a couple of opportunities and projects which I think has really advanced our progress. So first of all, the Quest initiative. Look, this is an exciting project that's just been launched, and it aims to be one of the world's largest behavioural-based study investigating the quality of life on patients who are using cannabis as the medicine. So the Quest stands for Quality of Life Evaluation Study, and it will be conducted by the University of Sydney. And LGP have the exclusive supply for this, so we'll provide the cannabis medicines for the duration of this study. And it also has the potential to be rolled out globally, or certainly into other international markets. What is great about this project is that we again are moving or challenging the market and making prices or cannabis medicines more affordable. So most patients will be able to access LGP branded medicines for $150 across most of our product range. So this is just another way that we really want to increase and focus on patient access and affordability. I mentioned a strategic partnership with HIF, so the Health Insurance Fund of Australia, to rebate cannabis medicines, and they're also supporting the Quest initiative with rebates. So this is a major turning point in the industry. I think not just in Australia, but overseas and in new and emerging markets, because it really tells the world that medicinal cannabis, it's a mainstream medicine now. It has a role to play in the medical field, and it's not going anywhere. So for a major health insurance fund in Australia to come out and publicly declare their support for medicinal cannabis is, I think, a huge turning point, and hopefully many of the other companies, the health funds, will follow and will go across the globe as well. Great. Okay, so moving on to our pathway to international sales. So I've mentioned our primary target is, or our first target is Australian sales, but I want to just focus now on our primary target, which is the international sales markets. So we've delivered a number of shipments into Germany, into the UK, New Zealand, and also Lesotho for patients to use. And it's not so much about how much was sent with these particular shipments. What it is about is the strategic importance behind them. It's the capability that supports the distribution and network pathways. So it allows us to develop this in each jurisdiction so that we can then realise our vision or our goal of larger sales volumes. So in Germany, it was exciting that we've just sent our oils and flower medicines, which is very popular in Germany by existing prescribers and patients. So it's a little bit different to some of the other international markets. Of particular importance, which I want to highlight, is the recent success we had in the French medical cannabis tender. So LGP was awarded a primary medicinal cannabis oil supplier role in the French government trial for medicinal cannabis. And we did this with a local distributor in France called Incel Chimos. Now this is really significant, this whole French tender, for a number of reasons. And I just want to touch on those because we know the importance of first mover advantage, and particularly brand equity in the new markets. And we know that this is essential for our vision because it's all about high quality Australian grown medicines and the LGP brand. So the trial itself is anticipated, we hope, to catalyse the legislation of medicinal cannabis in France. And the industry expects this to be about $4 billion worth. It's a big market in France. So we need to look at this with a longer term vision, because we're supplying our cannabis medicines for free for between 2,000 and 3,000 patients in the near term. So this sounds like a lot, but the trial supports our longer term strategy. And as you know, we're growing excellent brand recognition across the globe, and this only cements the company as a leading supplier and our leading position in the global medicinal cannabis industry. So we're right up there with the big boys. We're playing with Aurora and Tilray, who have also been awarded primary supplier roles. So we're really looking forward to entering into that French market and seeing what that has to deliver us in terms of return in a number of years from now. Okay, we'll move on to product innovation. So sorry, one more slide there, into 17. And we are continuing to expand our product range, as I've mentioned, and slowly, surely, and very excitingly, the company has now successfully applied medicinal cannabis to the patented Arise delivery technology. And that's what we're working with Curtin University on. So this unique drug delivery technology is currently undertaking yield optimization activities before it progresses to the preclinical testing stage. From here, this will determine optimal formulation before we can then move towards human testing and TGA registration, which we would love to be able to achieve down the track. So realistically, we're still a while away from actually having an end product with the Arise technology. But that's the industry we're in. That's pharmaceutical and that's drug delivery systems. And so we need to realize this is the longer term game plan. So we're here to set our brand and get our commercial sales intact first, and then we're ready to deliver down the track with a unique drug delivery system. So we'll keep updating you on the progress of this technology, but this is a really exciting space for the company. Okay, so finally, what I just want to show you the news flow slide now, so on slide 18, and what to look out for as an investor, what is going to drive value for LGP, so the sorts of things to keep an eye out for, things along the lines of delivering our first products to South America and to the patients in France. New distribution agreements overseas. I mean, these are important because this will dictate our future sales into these markets. And of course, as I've just mentioned, the progress on our Arise drug delivery formulation. So it's these types of announcements that coming that demonstrate a solid progress from our end and to achieve our strategic goals. This is a great slide just to keep an eye on, because we always tick these off. So it's just a matter of time before we get there. And look, that really wraps up most of this presentation. There is a facility tour, a link that's available, and this is on slide 20. So for those new to the Little Green Pharma operations, I invite you to click on the link just on the next slide. So I won't take you through that presentation now, but you can do it offline and just click on the link to this video that you can see, and that will give you a very brief facility tour of our operations in Western Australia. So for everybody joining us today, including our loyal supportive shareholders, our new shareholders, and any prospective investors looking to join the LGP family, thank you very much for allowing us to continue achieving our milestones so we really can do what we set out to do, and that's to do extraordinary things for our patients. So we can't wait to update you on our progress again shortly. Thank you.
Fleta, I do have a couple of questions, and the first relates to capacity. So for the half, you delivered 21,000 bottles to patients in Australia and abroad, but the facility has the capacity to do up to 300,000 bottles. Clearly, over the coming periods, you are expecting strong growth in your sales pipeline.
Look, yes, we are. Of course, that is our primary target, and we were overjoyed, to say the least, when we realised we had underestimated our production capability. So when we recently commissioned our production, our expanded facility, and we estimated based on our previous growing methodologies that we would grow about 1.75 tonne of flour. But we'd actually changed our methodology slightly in the new expanded facility, and continuously getting a much higher yield the way that we grow. And so very surprised, but very pleasantly surprised to know that we will be producing around that 3 tonne of flour, or the 300,000 bottles. So as you can imagine, yes, our aim is to be supplying the world with our medicines, and we've got 300,000 bottles, per annum to sell. If we need to, we get additional raw biomass, so we won't run out, and that's really important for the company, is not to ever run out of stock. But of course, because of that extra capacity, we now need to be able to deliver on that manufacturing and processing side. So thanks to that recent capital raise, we're able just to adjust our labour and also any minor equipment that we might need, just so we can keep up with the production that's happening in the cultivation facility.
In terms of overseas markets, people look at numbers, 1,000 bottles, 2,000 bottles, which is in its own is not an insignificant number. But how do you view sort of a 2,000 bottle shipment to Germany and 1,000 bottles to the UK in terms of the scale of the opportunity in those markets?
Yeah, so again, they're not huge volumes, they're not really materially important, but what it does show is that the shipments are strategically important, in that, to get 2,000 bottles to Germany, or more than 2,000 bottles, is great. We know that's a primary market. It's just to get one bottle that's for patient use is actually really tough. And so to get over 2,000 shows that there is demand there for our Australian medicines. And so now it's just a matter of working with distribution groups on the ground in Germany to realise those sales, because Germany, just like Australia, is still quite in its infancy. There's a lot of doctor and prescriber education, including pharmacists, that needs to happen. So there's a lot more work behind the scenes that's involved. So fortunately, our partnerships with our distributors will help to increase that volume. And so we're just anticipating that, that's just the first small volume, but what will happen moving forwards is that volume will start to increase as we get our brand awareness, I suppose, into Germany, and also keep educating those medical practitioners.
As you say, not an easy process getting into those markets. The fact that your product is GMP approved and you have landed product into Germany and the UK. Has it opened other doors with distributors both in Germany and other countries now that they've seen you can do it?
That's a great question. And I actually think I'm going to say yes, because even New Zealand and Brazil have kind of gone, well, if you can get it into Germany, you can get it in here. And so since then, we've now delivered into New Zealand. It's a little bit more complicated. Every jurisdiction has its own complications. And Brazil, we're yet to deliver there. We're soon to ship again one of these pathfinder shipments, which will be important for our longer term strategy in Brazil. But I think having gone through the audit processing, it's a huge process to go through, particularly with our German clients. And so to be able to get that certificate of approval from them after a good year or more of going through this audit process puts us in a great position moving forward, because we've been there, we've done it, we can replicate and we can do it again for additional markets as they come online and open up.
Why are Australian produced products grown in Australia, manufactured in Australia, so in demand in other locations outside of Australia?
I think a couple of things there, David. One is consistency. Thanks to our very highly regulated industry through the Office of Drug Control, but also the Therapeutic Goods Administration, we have a very high protocol and procedure to follow. So what's great about that, it's a very high hurdle to jump, but once you've jumped it, it's the options are endless, because you have this incredibly high quality material or medicine that's consistent time and time again. And that's what you want with a medicine. You want to know that what you're picking up from the pharmacy is the same medicine you're going to have 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years from now. And that's where each jurisdiction is quite different. The level of what they need, their strictness is really dependent. It really varies. So Germany is at one end of the scale, and they really are looking forward to Australian medicines, because it gives them that high quality, because Australia is one of the few jurisdictions that have that MRA, which just goes to show that mutual recognition, which basically shows that our manufacturing procedures in Australia are compliant with or recognised by the EU. And it's so important, because Canada, for example, doesn't have that. Companies have to go out and source that directly or indirectly themselves if they want that certification. So I think that's why Australian medicines in particular are really highly sought after, because the quality is there, the consistency is there, and we're one of the few countries that can actually legally export.
Been listed less than 12 months. Are you surprised by what has been achieved in such a short time frame?
Yes, I'm very surprised. I am and I'm not. You have to pinch yourself sometimes and say, look at what we've just done over the last year. And this is hat off to the LGP team. My goodness, I just work with the most incredible bunch of people, just so passionate, so determined, and nothing stops them. And we keep going and going, and there's always something else to achieve. And so there's this sense of urgency, and I'm going to say aggressiveness within the organisation. But on the flip side, it's all patient-centric. And the people that we've got behind are truly in it for the right reason. And we have this incredible culture ingrained of patient-centric, but we go, hell for leather, and we don't stop. So, that will continue as what everybody knows of LGP to be, and what we have achieved. Nothing's going to slow down. It's game on from here, particularly now that we've closed that capital raise, and we can get more manpower on the ground to actually increase those sales and look at that R&D component.
I'm not asking about financials or asking you to make a forecast, but look forward 12 months from now, 2 years listed on the ASX. What will be the big achievements of the next 12 months that you're looking for?
So I think, these international sales, so we need to get more distribution agreements with the right partners in different jurisdictions. So even in Europe, there are countries, you need to keep a close eye on places like Denmark, Poland. I've mentioned Brazil, even South Africa. There are so many of these jurisdictions that are opening up. So we need to keep very mindful of those and look at how slow or fast moving these particular jurisdictions are. So that's really important. So hopefully we're in a lot more countries in another year from now. And look, I think the Quest initiative that's just been launched, I think this will really help to change our industry, not only for Little Green Pharma, but for all stakeholders, because it's just another way of getting evidence that medical cannabis really does have a role to play in the medical field. And when you've got insurance companies like HIF backing and supporting it, I think you'll find that patient access will open up. So I'd love to comment in another year and say, my gosh, we've got, say, 80,000 or 70 to 80,000 patients in Australia who have been approved for medicinal cannabis. Is that going to go up to 200 or 300,000 next year? Let's wait and see. It could even be higher. Who knows?
An exceptional first year of listed life with some breathtaking milestones achieved and a firm foundation built for the next 12 months and beyond, with a clear strategy and a can-do attitude. Fleta, thanks for your time.
Thank you, David, and thank you everybody for joining. Bye.